I'm Kurt Cuffey, a freelance touring photographer based out of Canada.
Hey guys, my name's Kat. I'm based on the East Coast of the United States, technically Richmond, Virginia, but I travel around so much I just like to say East Coast. I consider myself a music documentarian. I focus in digital media and film photography to document music. I'm also a social media coordinator and a publicist and a tour manager. So I kind of just have my hands in every arena of the music world that has to do with bringing live music to an audience.
Hi, I'm Martin. I live in Southampton and I take photos of people, mostly in bands and mostly on tour.
I use a Canon 6D and a Sigma Art lens as my primary kit.
My current digital setup is a Canon 6D and I own 2 lenses, which is probably something I should be thinking about a little more, but I like traveling light, so for touring specifically I only would take 2, maybe 3. So I've always used a 50mm 1.4 as like my go-to baby. I've always used that, and a 20mm 2.8 which I grew into loving.
As far as gear goes, what this is being recorded on and what my gear is, it's all Nikon. I'm team Nikon. I use a Nikon Z500. I think it's great for tour. It's a lightweight camera. I travel with it. I've flown it to LA before with me. Any lens is great on it. I personally work really closely with Nikon, so I only have Nikon gear. I use a D500. I have multiple different lenses for tour. Best things for tours is bringing multiple lenses. I just recommend a good lens with a zoom, a good prime lens, and a good wide angle lens.
My film setup currently is a Konica Hexa. It's a 35mm automatic compact camera, which I am still learning how to love because it's given me a hard time, but that's purely because I'm very picky as to where I want my focus to go, and yeah, I've been struggling to use that camera, to be quite frank. Another thing that I very much love using is my medium format. It's very compact and it's very slim and not too heavy, which is super cool for tour. And it's a Yashica 635. I picked it up secondhand at some weird vintage store in Southampton and I've been using it ever since and I absolutely love it. Yeah, I've just released a book actually, and pretty much all the content that was within that photo book was shot on that Yashica and a Zenit that I got off my granddad when I was like maybe 14, maybe 12.
My first tour was back in 2014. I actually got taken out by a band called Abandon All Ships, if anybody's ever heard of them. It was a very interesting run in the sense of I had never toured before, clearly, but it was also for 54 days, so I got thrown right into it. I remember getting a call. I was at my ex's at the times. I got a call on late afternoon, and it was just like from a friend, Mike Martins, who we called Bike Rack at the time, and he said, "Hey, like, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh, nothing." Like, super nervous. And he's like, "Do you want to go on tour?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, all right, like, Angie's gonna call you, which is the vocalist of Abandon All Ships. And I was like, okay, and then he just hung up. And then like 3 minutes later, Angelo called me and was like, "Coffee, what up?" I was like, that's my poor Italian accent, or poor Ange accent at least. And he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Nothing, like, what's up with you?" Because I'm still nervous. And he goes, do you want to tour? And I obviously reply yes again. He's like, "Alright, tour's 54 days, it pays X amount, are you down?" And I just said yeah, and then within 2 months of that, like, I guess that happened in like October, like mid to late October. 2 months of that, I was on tour with them, and at least getting ready. We had rehearsals in December, and then we left for actual tour on February 5th of 2015.
My first tour was the Felly with Gypsy Burns Mermaid Gang tour. I did part of the southeast leg of it with Peter's son, DJ Gringo. So we did the Virginia Beach date, the Durham date. Was it Durham in North Carolina? I think we drove past Durham. It wasn't Durham. It was somewhere in North Carolina. So there was a Virginia date, a North Carolina date, a South Carolina date, and then about 2 weeks apart, and then there was a Connecticut date. So that was my first ever tour. It was like a nice little mini tour, good introduction. And since then, I've really learned about one-off tours and one-off shows, especially city debuts. I work mostly in the rap community and the rap touring community, which is huge in one-off shows. I feel like in garage bands and in punk bands, you don't really see one-off shows quite as often, but like, for example, with Peter Sun, we did a Pittsburgh debut, and it was a one-off Pittsburgh show. We drove up, we did the show, the next morning we had a radio interview, and then we went home. But that, to me, is still classified as almost a tour, just because we are taking what we love and we're putting it on the road. And I feel like if we can deconstruct the word tour and kind of apply it where it is needed in the music industry, we can kind of see a broader range of what the music industry really can be.
Because I've started touring about 3 years ago, I had absolutely no expectations because I was never really into the whole industry side of things, so the fact that people did that for a living wasn't like the most bonkers, bizarre thing. I would never be like, oh, I pay my rent by going on tour with people and documenting what they do. Yeah, but I feel like it's been a very weird experience watching all these upcoming photographers predominantly just going on tour, whereas like about 3 years ago it just wasn't a thing. And yeah, when I first started taking photos, I was never like touring photography is what I want to do or anything along the lines, because it was just I don't feel like it was that much of a thing. But because of the way social media works and the way bands nowadays reach all these fans and all these people is through that Facebook like, that Instagram follower, I feel like what I do helps them get more places, if that makes sense.
A tour photographer is going to be the least comfortable person there. You're going to be waking up early to turn around the photos because you have about a 24-hour window in every photo that you take for its relevancy to apply. You can do a photo shoot and those photos are still relevant 6 years later. With tour photography, a main component of why you're taking those photos is for promotions use, and promotions use has an expiration date on it as far as relevancy. If you're saying, hey, come out to the next show, the last show was so much fun, you should be posting a photo from the last show, you shouldn't be posting it from 3 shows ago. And a large section of how I view that is also my work as a social media coordinator and my need for physical space to be number one and the media to come secondary, but the media has to represent the physical space. And for the media to represent the physical space, it has to be quick. So you're not going to sleep on tour. I'm a vegetarian. We just stop where my boys stop, so I eat a lot of fries and nothing else when I'm on tour. You're gonna probably sleep on the floor. It seems glamorous. You might not have money for a hotel one night. Maybe the show didn't make what you thought it would make. So you're sleeping on the promoter's floor, and you're gonna find out there are people in this world who have one pillow and one blanket, and you gotta bring a jacket. So touring is so much fun. You're with the people you love the most. It becomes this huge family, and each tour has like a one-off line or an inside joke that you get to play around with. And as a photographer, each tour has a different look because each tour makes you feel different. So it's an amazing experience that is not replicated in any other industry. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you're on a press tour or anything. There's nothing like a good old school music tour in the music industry.
I definitely always expected to see a lot of stuff, to eat a lot of food, to become friends with people you never thought, like bands you never thought of, like bands you looked up to, friends who now are just normal people to you, which they always should be, but like you never know from like a crowd standpoint or fan standpoint, but now some of my best friends. So that part of touring is definitely what's expected. Did I expect like the whole political side of it and like the music scene and like just labels and how that whole system works? Not really, but it's not all bad. It's like it's stuff that I didn't expect, but stuff that I should have known going into it. But you only in this music scene you only really learn by actually doing, which is a lot of like arts and hands-on things. So yeah, no, it's definitely everything I expected, at least.
When people ask me what I do for a living and I get to explain, I glamorize it myself because I never get into details. Like, for example, when people, especially touring bands, tell people that they've seen all these things, it's purely because it has probably been arranged beforehand as to what they want to see whilst being on tour. So I've just come off a run with Casey, and we probably explored about 4 times on a month-long tour, pretty much. So yeah, you hardly get to see anything unless your band is really into getting up early and getting shit done and getting these long ass drives out of the fucking way. And yeah, I just feel like people think that everyone gets to drive overnight and sleep in hotels and they're being fed like normal human beings and there's always a shower available, and that is just not what it actually is when touring with an upcoming band. But it's not all bad. Like, sometimes you do get hotels. Most of the catering in Europe is absolutely incredible. You get a hot meal everywhere you go, and there's always snacks and there's always sandwiches. But the moment, like for example, you get to the UK, you probably get out 6 bottles of water to get through the day and like a £5 buyout if you're lucky enough. So yeah, I do feel it's a little glamorized.
I feel like the thing that's glamorized the most maybe is like the whole mental health issue aspect of it, is that like once you're on tour you're just amazing and like everything could be great and is great, but like some people do like really struggle with like keeping everything like chill, and some people have like girlfriends or wives back home, so it's definitely, I find, like the whole mental and like what tour is when you're out there, depending on who you're with and like where your band's at, of course, how comfortable everything can be. Sometimes it's just not, and sometimes it's really hard to keep touring through, I guess. Yeah.
Tour is about learning how to be you on the fly and learning what being you means and learning where to take time to remember you as an individual apart from you as a team. I will say that if you're on a tour, you really do have to find a way to mentally take breaks. For a photographer, it's really easy. Make that time that you edit, maybe just wake up an hour earlier than you want to. You'll be a little bit more tired, but you're gonna have an hour where it's just you and you're editing and your photos, and it's great, and you can forget that you're working as part of this team for like a little hour. And I think that's really healthy to kind of just take an hour a day when you're on tour and just mentally be you, because your art has to be your art. Your art is a part of the team, but it comes from you. You wouldn't be part of that team unless your art spoke for itself.
How important do I feel that it is to tour as a photographer? Pretty important if that's what you want to do, I guess. Like, it's not important for us, but it's important for the bands to bring photographers. I don't know, it's always gonna come down to priority thing. Like, if you think you're gonna make a name for yourself and you like to travel and you believe you can handle the like ups and downs, the roller coaster of touring, then like, yeah, being a touring music photographer is definitely really important and really sweet.
I've always been saying this, I don't necessarily think every band needs to be documented at all times. There's so much, because the industry is so oversaturated with music anyway, there's so much content out there that people just flick through without even looking twice. I feel like we just need to kind of slow down and think twice about what we put out. That's why I've always liked to take time with what I do. It's not because I'm like lazy or anything, it's just I'm very picky and anxious about the way my work comes across, I guess.
I see that a lot of photographers have touring as like a goal in mind, and it's really tough to get into. I recommend everyone still try, but it's one of those things where, like, as a music photographer, like, I don't feel like that is the only end goal. Like, you could work for a really sweet magazine and stay home. You could do like I don't know, the whole band promotional side. Like, there's a lot of other branches in music photography. Touring is definitely the most exclusive one per se, but it's only because there's only can be one or two of us out with the band?
I think being on tour as a photographer is super, super, super important. As a social media manager, my number one principle is physical space and to show up in physical space. So what that means is like, for rappers, I'm like, you can put as many tracks as we want on SoundCloud, but you've got to show up on a stage and perform or you're not a performer. And it's the same thing with tour photographers. We live in a day and age where Google images and image searches are number one to your identity. So, you know, back in the age of vinyl, you could be listening to the same record of an artist for years and have no idea what they look like, but now you hear somebody on the radio, you pick up your phone, you Google that person, you pull up an image and you know what they look like. And tour photography is a huge part of that because touring should be a huge part of a musician's life. So you need an accurate visual catalog to represent who that musician is as a way to introduce them and welcome new followers and listeners.
When you've been put in such a privileged place to document all these people's like experiences and like dreams come true, it's so rewarding and it feels so nice.
The advice I have is just let go of your expectations. So that's something I learned when I did my first documentary. I wasn't even on tour. I was very lucky to learn that before I went on tour. But if you go in tour with an expectation of, I'm gonna get X many shots of live, I want us to be able to do this, and the green room shots are gonna be so great, and man, the diner shots and the car shots, you're gonna miss half of those.
I always tell like friends and family and fans, whoever wants to listen, essentially, if you're looking to get into touring, like, start off with a local band in a way. And I know it sounds lame or tedious, but really, like, find those locals who might be popping off or doing something really soon, and like try to read the scene, read the market, where they've been, and like just show up at the proper time and start working for them, or express interest more than anybody else, or message tour managers instead of like publications, and try to like bridge that gap. Like you're trying to get closer to the band and to the label, so you are that first choice when stuff like that does happen. Because like when a band is super small, they'll remember you, and like not that bigger bands won't, but it's just harder to filter.
Take your time where you can get your time, especially if you're a woman traveling with a bunch of men. Sometimes it's exhausting. You know, you watch your boys hit on whoever you're on tour with, and you end up just being like, you know, you just sometimes take mental breaks. Put it there. Take a mental break.
Yeah, advice on touring. So number one, do everything on your own terms, forever and always. Don't let people walk all over you. Even if you're starting out, make sure everything is as you want it, not as someone else wants it. Don't pour 100% of effort into someone who doesn't deserve it.
It shouldn't be, I want to get this material, because that's not life. You need to just let life happen to you, let life happen to your camera, and be there just to pick it up at the right moment and take a photo of what that is.
Money isn't a priority. You can always work around it. Like, I feel like I've done so many things for free when I first started out, and I don't regret any of it because it taught me so many lessons. Yeah, so the experiences are probably priceless.
Comes with like loyalty, and like I like to stay with a lot of my bands for many years and as long as I can, essentially, because I've done the whole band hopping thing, and I like the whole family aspect you can get from just being around people for a long time, because tours are very like intimate thing. Like it's not like much other things. It's very much like skateboarding, you guys travel together. It's much like golf because you travel together like that. It's, I don't know, touring it can be considered a sport in my eyes. So my advice is to just start small, learn how to type an email, and get out there. Just start reaching out, because you can probably do it.